Hello everyone, welcome to 2019, the digital year that was, 2020, the digital year that will be. First of all, apologies for not being able to have delivered this in a live stream, but as many of you know, we went through a week-long state of emergency here in St. John's, and on the days that we had originally scheduled to be able to deliver the live stream, there was some pretty dodgy power going in and out all around us. And we were concerned that we were going to get started and lose our power, and that would have created an issue with all of the live streaming. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for some of our live streams that'll be coming up in the future, but we thought it was best to deliver this content via recorded presentation to make sure that we were able to get it to you without you having to reschedule more into your life. So thanks again for joining us and signing up for this hour-long broadcast, approximately, where we're really going to try to touch base on some of the main changes that have occurred over the last year with regards to the digital and social media space, some of the impact that these changes are going to have, and how we want to be thinking about going into 2020. Where our main focus needs to be with regards to our digital and social media deployment, and what major changes we may need to make to our plans and our execution as to how we go about doing that. What we want to do over the next little while is to have a conversation about the types of changes that are happening in general. And we also want to take a look specifically at some individual platforms and address some of the things that are very important. Now, one of the things is we will not be able to, in this time frame, cover every change that's gone on across the different platforms over the course of the last 12 months. We're really just going to be highlighting. We realize that in the digital and social media space, things are changing on an ongoing basis. One of the biggest comments we usually get from our 3-day face-to-face digital and social media program sessions is, how do we stay current and up to date on this content? That's one of the reasons why we've launched the DSM podcast. Every couple of weeks, we're going to be taking a look at what new things have happened in that last 14 days or so to really help you stay current and up to date. Not necessarily going to be able to go into a lot of detail on everything, but really just trying to bring some highlights and things that may be relevant to you. This podcast is available across all of the main podcasting sites: Apple, Google, Spotify, TuneIn, as well as other platforms that are relevant for podcasting. So this is just really one of the steps that we want to do to try to help people stay current and up to date, and realizing that you can't really wait a year to stay up to date with some of the changes that are happening. You may need to react a little bit more rapidly than that. But let's get started on the information for where the big changes have occurred in 2019 and how we're moving forward into 2020. Well, if we had to come up with one word to sort of summarize what was really moving across most of the major platforms in 2019, a move to privacy is probably going to be best to sort of describe that. This is no more amplified than when we take a look at Facebook and their evolution. Mark Zuckerberg at the F8 conference made a comment and really has brought forward what a lot of people have referred to as the Privacy Manifesto. This is really where Facebook has identified that the primary means of communication are moving more to private and direct communication as opposed to more broadcasting on social media. And this is really leading to a lot of the changes that we're going to be discussing that are happening within Facebook, and how your utilization of that platform really needs to change. The other piece that really sort of discusses as far as what the changes have been going on across social media that get amplified on all of the platforms is a move from social to a much more of a focus on media. we're seeing less and less communication and engagement occurring on the actual social media platforms and a lot more consumption of media. This is where we see the rise of Instagram, YouTube, and other media-based platforms really hitting the top of the chain, and others that are less media-based really not having quite the same reach and impact that we might have hoped that they had had. So platforms are really starting to find their place, and the big one that we'll talk about more near the end of the session is the emergence of messaging. Messaging has been growing for many, many years, but now it absolutely has to be a priority for your organization going forward. And we'll take a look at that as one of the main changes that we need to think about moving into 2020 coming up. But let's just take a brief look at some of the main platforms and some of the changes that are going on to highlight where we want to be and what we want to take a look at. Let's begin by looking at Facebook. Facebook is still the largest of all of the social media platforms with respect to monthly active users. Facebook has just recently gone past the 2.5 billion monthly active user mark just last week when the announcement was made. What this means is that Facebook still continues to grow globally with the number of users that are using the platform. However, we have seen remarkable declines on Facebook with regards to the amount of time that is being spent on the platform. So while people are still going on to Facebook, they're spending a lot less time there, and how they're using that platform has changed dramatically as well. Facebook has really been watching and monitoring these changes and transitions that their users are having on Facebook and have adjusted their algorithms and their real philosophy with regards to how they deliver content to the individuals as well. Facebook doesn't want to lose the relevance of Facebook, and it realizes that it really has to adapt and change. One of the big areas where we've seen ongoing changes over a number of years with Facebook is with EdgeRank. EdgeRank, for those of you that may not be that familiar, is Facebook's algorithm that determines who they're going to show your content to. Now, a number of years ago, we were quite concerned about EdgeRank because Facebook was only showing our content in your feed on average to about 6% of the individuals who had liked or followed your page. In 2019, this number hit record lows. We are now seeing on average across most Facebook pages only about 0.5% of your Facebook fans are ever seeing your content in your feed. The challenge that this leads to is the fact that the general user has no idea about EdgeRank. And so this is one of the reasons why over the years we've always suggested that you don't want to try to get people to like your page, but rather you want to try to get people to visit your page. And in fact, Facebook creates an icon that rather than like us on Facebook is really encouraging people to find you on Facebook, recognizing the fact that if they visit your Facebook page, they will see the content that is relevant for them when they get there, not stuff that may be filtered out via EdgeRank. Now, EdgeRank has been one of those challenges that organizations have always had to deal with as Facebook adjusts their algorithm to make sure that we're getting content to the individuals at appropriate times. One of the things that Facebook looks at with the EdgeRank algorithm has always been how many people are engaging with your content within the first 2 hours. And so this is one of the reasons why scheduling your Facebook posts or making your Facebook posts at key times during the day when the majority of your Facebook fans who are interested in that type of content are on Facebook has really become a key factor. Now, organizations knew that Facebook was looking for people engaging with the content, not just passively viewing the content. And so what they've been doing for a few years is adding the words like this post or share this post. Well, Facebook's algorithm back in December of 2018 changed all this. And so for the last year, we've been seeing increased utilization of the factor of Facebook looking for credible shares and engagement. What this means is that if you make a post and use the words in the post to like this post or share this post, even if people do share it or like it, Facebook takes those as not being credible because you asked them to do that. It wasn't an organic share showing that you've got good quality content. For this reason, it's extremely important that brands are not using the words like us on Facebook or share or like this post or share this post when you're making a post on Facebook, that you really focus on your content being quality and that they share it or like it because of the fact that it's relevant. That's what we really want to strive for on Facebook, is reaching that organic content that's relevant for them. The other part about EdgeRank that comes into play is when you make a post, you really need to help Facebook understand who should be seeing that post. One of the issues we still see a lot of organizations using in 2019 is doing Facebook posts and making them public. This is one of the things that really is quite damaging to your ability to optimize for EdgeRank, because when you make a post public, this is essentially telling Facebook, I have no clue who I really want to see this post. Every post that you make on Facebook should be done through preferred audience targeting. You really have three options on Facebook when you're making a post. You have the option to make it public, you have the option to make it a preferred audience, and you have the option to make it a restricted audience. Public gives Facebook no clues to who you want to see the post. Restricted audience actually makes it very restrictive and will not show that post anywhere on Facebook if the person doesn't meet the two parameters. With restricted posts, you have the ability to set your targeting on the basis of age or geographical location. Those are the only two factors you can use on a restricted post. When you do that, that means that that post will essentially be invisible to that individual, even if they visit your Facebook page or their friends share that post. So this is type that would only be used in a very limited situation. Preferred audiences, however, are absolutely essential that you use preferred audiences on every single post that you make on Facebook. What preferred audiences do is it allows you to give Facebook some idea about who it is that you want to see that post and what criteria to apply. Almost all of the targeting capabilities that you would have with a boosted post on Facebook are available to you with the preferred posts. There are some exceptions that aren't available on both aspects, but they are relatively limited. You have an amazing amount of targeting capabilities that you can do with preferred audience targeting. The advantage of this is if Facebook is deciding who to show your post to that might engage with it, and you've given them an idea about who that post is designed and written for, they're going to show it to them more frequently than somebody who's outside of that criteria. The real benefit is this helps with EdgeRank, but it's not restrictive. If somebody who's in that audience or somebody who's outside that audience sees your post and shares it, their friends will see it as well, whether they're in that audience or not. So it's not like that restricted audience where it prevents people from seeing it. It simply lets Facebook know this is my preferred audience, but it doesn't prevent others from seeing it. So it really has no disadvantage from a reach perspective, but it really helps to give you a better opportunity to get engagement by making sure that Facebook has some idea who you want to show that post to. Now, all of these factors impact your ability to get organic reach. But still, with EdgeRank, we're looking on average at 0.5%. Good pages are getting maybe 6%. So, this is where one of the most important changes for 2019 with regards to Facebook comes into play. Your page and the news feed is no longer your main priority for what you do with your Facebook deployment. We have seen a lot of changes occur over about an 18-month period that make groups on Facebook your new most important tool. The first step came about 18 months ago when Facebook made the decision to allow pages to create and be administrators of a group. Prior to this point, we had always recommended to organizations to never ever use Facebook groups to engage with your audience. The problem with it was it meant that an employee had to create the group and the employee had to be engaging with the individuals, not the organization. It also meant that because an individual was in that group, there were some privacy implications and some privacy aspects that came into play that really needed to be addressed and made it to the point where we were recommending to brands to avoid groups and to stick to using pages and to do what we could to try to address EdgeRank. But the change 18 months ago that allows pages to create groups started the ball game. Then, about 6 months after that, Facebook gave group administrators the ability to throw a switch and in their settings allow pages to become members of that group. Then, a few months after that, Facebook gave pages the ability to request to join groups even if that group did not have that setting allowing pages, allowing them to still request. What this did was open up groups' ability to be utilized by pages, have members of the group who were also pages, so administrators of any of the groups would be able to access the content and contribute to the content, but all of this content contribution would be coming as a page. There was no personal identification of the individual in any way, shape, or form. So this opened up a unique channel. What really took this to the next level was going back to Mark Zuckerberg's Privacy Manifesto. During his Privacy Manifesto at F8, he really focused on the fact that everything is moving to more private communication. And as part of that, he was going to take the news feed, and the focus on the news feed was going to be posts by friends, family, and groups. So this is where the evolution and the changes in groups and the change in the newsfeed algorithm and the restrictiveness has really caused a massive transition in 2019 for brands. Your page still needs to exist, but its role has moved from one of trying to get engagement in a struggling EdgeRank system and really moving to the point of your page is now a recruitment tool for your groups. A page's groups really need to be very tightly focused on content and topic. So one page may have multiple groups with multiple topics. In many ways, when we might have suggested in the past that an organization needed to have multiple Facebook pages to keep the content on topic, an organization might be able to consolidate their pages into either just one or two pages, one in French, one in English, if they need to make sure that they're deploying their content in both official languages. What we will have is we will have a series of groups that are very topic focused, so that we invite people to join those groups who have expressed interest in a particular topic that we're doing. So the new strategy for 2019 and the tactical technique for how we use our Facebook page effectively is it is used as a recruitment tool. What you want to do as you move forward into 2020 is to make sure that you're putting out very good, highly engaging content on Facebook. That means video, and we'll talk more about that later. You want to give that content about 24 hours to try to see what kind of reach you can get organically from that. And then after that 24-hour period, providing you've got the capabilities and the budget, put a little bit, not a lot, but put a little bit of money behind giving that post a bit of a boost. Then what you want to do is, on the basis of anybody who engages with that content, either through the organic post or the boosted post, is we want to invite them into the group where that specific topic is being discussed. We really want to make sure that those audiences understand that Facebook is only showing your content to about 0.5% of the audience. And you want to make sure that they don't miss out on important information on a topic that they have shown you that they've expressed interest in. This fear of missing out is a huge factor that can drive that engagement and add them into your group. The big change is once an individual has joined your group and you make a post in that group, rather than less than 0.5% of them seeing that content, 100% of them are going to see that content or close to it. This means that although you may have a smaller number of individuals in each of your groups, you will actually have a lot more of them seeing the content on a percentage basis. And because they've chosen that group for that particular topic, the engagement on that content should be much higher as well. So really, this has got to be one of the most important transitions from your tactical plan that organizations need to take a look at for moving their Facebook deployments forward. Creation of very specific topical groups for very narrowly focused topics. Then organic posts on your Facebook page, boost those posts, and really on a topic by topic basis, inviting people to join the specific groups where those topics are relevant. You may want to share with the individuals the other topics that you have within your groups, and they can choose which are the groups that they want to belong to on the basis of the content topics. So this fits entirely into the algorithm changes and the issues that are adjusting within Facebook. So organizations really need to think about what they're doing to transition from the content that they were putting out on their page. The good news is that you can still put content that you post in a group also out on your page. This is especially true for live streaming content. When you're doing live streams, you have the ability to do that live stream within your group, but simultaneously broadcast that onto a page. This gives you the opportunity with your most engaging content, which is live streaming on Facebook, the type of content that's going to get your best organic reach, the ability to be focused within your group, but also used as a huge recruitment tool to find individuals that are engaging with that type of content to invite them into the group from the organic post. So this has been a huge boon for what people are doing on Facebook. One of the things that we want to talk about as well, because it is relevant to what we've just discussed, and that is Facebook live streaming. One of the challenges that we've always expressed over the last couple of years is Facebook always had a factor that said that if you were broadcasting live on Facebook, you were not allowed to broadcast live on another social media platform. So organizations, in order to get around this, were creating workarounds, whether it was having multiple cameras, one broadcasting live to Facebook and one broadcasting live to another social media platform such as YouTube, or in using a third-party tool where your live broadcast would go into that platform and then it would be repositioned and rebroadcast out to multiple platforms. This was cost challenging in some cases and not necessarily bandwidth effective. It also created a delay because you were going through a third party. Late in 2019, Facebook made a transition to this policy. Facebook is now allowing simultaneous live streams on both Facebook and other social media platforms. So what we've seen is most of the main live streaming tools that you can use have made this adjustment, allowing you to broadcast across more than one platform when Facebook is one of the ones that you've chosen. Those platforms that haven't made that adjustment will be in the coming months. So make sure that whatever tool you're using for your live stream deployments is updated, because that will allow you to then simultaneously broadcast not just to Facebook as a channel, but onto other social media platforms simultaneously from a single device. So that should help with some of your reach for relevant live streaming broadcasts. One of the other big changes that has happened with regards to Facebook is we're seeing increased utilization of video and importance of video. This comes down across all platforms, and really, as we've discussed several times, the three most important tools we used to say for a business were location, location, location. Now it's video, video, video. The only difference is what type of format and structure are you using. One of the things that is extremely important with video deployment is we need to make sure that you've got that video correctly formatted for the appropriate platform. When we think about widescreen, a typical 16:9 video, this is where this format should only be utilized on LinkedIn and YouTube. The optimal reach for Facebook and for Twitter and for Instagram is going to be square video, with the exception being Instagram stories, Facebook stories, and Snapchat, in which case we're dealing with vertical video. So making sure that you have your video formatted in the correct structure is absolutely key. Likewise, you need to make sure that that video is the correct length. Every platform has an optimal length of video that you need to take a look at. The YouTube is probably the only social media platform where you would ever upload a video that's longer than 5 minutes. LinkedIn, you're looking at about 90 seconds being optimal. Twitter, you're looking at about 20 to 25 seconds as optimal maximum length. And Facebook, between 2 to 3 minutes is maximum length that you're looking at. Obviously, live streaming deployments are different than the recorded content. One of the things that came out in 2019 that really is a game changer for helping you optimize your video deployment is the new Adobe Premiere Pro. The updated version of Premiere Pro has an amazing new feature utilizing artificial intelligence, that if you've shot a video in a 16:9 format that has an individual in the frame that is moving throughout the frame left to right, not necessarily staying in one position, the Premiere Pro now has the ability to use artificial intelligence to reformat that widescreen video to either a square video or a vertical format while keeping the focus of the video content center frame. This used to be an extremely tedious editing process to be able to change where you were having that main frame located, but it now is a breeze using Premiere Pro to be able to optimize that deployment. This is one of the reasons why, as we take a look at Premiere Pro, it may well become our go-to social media editing tool for many organizations these days, because this feature alone could save a considerable amount of time as you ensure that your video content is optimized for the right platform that you're deploying on. So video, video, video becomes absolutely key. Speaking of video, let's look at YouTube. YouTube has had amazing growth over the last 12 months. Based on the trend line, there is a really clear probability that YouTube will surpass Facebook for the number of monthly active users in the coming months. We saw some dramatic changes near the end of 2019, where in today's teenagers, for the first time in history, more teenagers were watching YouTube on a monthly basis than watching Netflix. Now, I will provide this stat with one caveat, is it was before Disney Plus, and who knows what The Mandalorian has done to change these figures. We haven't seen any detailed information on where these are going, but in general, what we're seeing is a massive transition onto YouTube for video consumption and long-form video. Where we see some of the greatest growth in the channels where people are watching YouTube is actually on the home television sets, on their big screen TVs. This is also one of the reasons why YouTube at the moment is the only platform where we would ever look at uploading 4K video as our preferred platform. YouTube will automatically adjust the resolution of the video optimized to the bandwidth that the person has and the type of device that they're on. So if they're on a mobile device in tight bandwidth, YouTube will show them the video in a lower format than the 4K. But if they're sitting at home in front of their 80-inch TV set, they will give them that video in full 4K glory. Although Facebook is experimenting with 4K and has deployed it in a few areas, it really is a case where 93 to 94% of all Facebook access is being done by a mobile device. Because of that, trying to watch and deploy 4K video will be very bandwidth intensive and is one of the reasons why we still upload video for Facebook at high definition or 1080 resolution, because it's ideally suited for the type of consumption that is being utilized. One of the other areas where video has really become into play is taking a look at the other social media platforms. Video, particularly live streaming video, is just one of the great features that has been evolving over the last 12 months with LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been growing in leaps and bounds. Latest numbers that were just released last week show that LinkedIn is about 650 million users now, up from 550, and the growth rate is being quite remarkable. Based on past information about LinkedIn suggesting that 50% of LinkedIn's users are logged into LinkedIn on a daily basis, one would expect the monthly active user report for LinkedIn will also increase, pushing it above Twitter. It had been just below Twitter, but we're looking and seeing that it will probably surpass Twitter for monthly active users. One of the big things that has driven that with LinkedIn is the fact that LinkedIn is the most trusted social media platform. Because of all of the ongoing discussions about fake news across Twitter and Facebook, a lot of individuals who used to go to Twitter and Facebook to consume their news, their updates, and their content have now chosen to move to LinkedIn to be able to do that. So we've seen a dramatic increase in the amount of content being consumed on LinkedIn. We're seeing an average of about 10 minutes a day that half of all LinkedIn users are spending on LinkedIn, making LinkedIn a much more important social media platform for organizations than what you're actually probably utilizing. Many organizations particularly those in the business to consumer market, have not really been looking at creating a lot of good content on LinkedIn. One of the things that we've seen really becoming powerful on LinkedIn is video. Video consumption has been growing in leaps and bounds, but although you're allowed to upload a 10-minute video onto LinkedIn, you should never upload a video longer than about 90 seconds. That's about max that LinkedIn users are optimal looking for. But one of the things that has been waiting for and is now available for you to request in beta, it's not been deployed fully as of yet, but you can request access to it through their beta test at the moment, and that is live streaming on LinkedIn. We're posting the URL at the bottom of the screen where you can go fill out your form and request access to be able to live stream on LinkedIn while we're waiting for the full deployment of this feature. LinkedIn has also gone out of their way to add many other new features and are continuing to do that with 2020, including now combining Elevate, which was their employee advocate program, into Pages instead of being a separate platform and a separate app. So ongoing, we're seeing a lot of amazing changes happening across LinkedIn, and the integration of what we've seen since Microsoft's acquisition has continued to make LinkedIn a much more valuable platform. One of the areas where LinkedIn has really benefited from the Microsoft acquisition has been in advertising. What we've seen is what used to be called Bing Ads, and a Bing Ad certified professional has now been rebranded Microsoft Advertising Professional, because it's not just about advertising on Bing. What we're seeing is a much tighter integration between Bing advertising and LinkedIn. In fact, we have the ability to target on Bing search campaigns on the basis of their LinkedIn profile data. So what skills do they have? What type of organization are they in? What's their job title? Because Microsoft has now got the ability to integrate their back-end databases and connect LinkedIn with Microsoft, making for much more powerful deployment. We've also seen increased utilization through LinkedIn's Pixel, where LinkedIn gives you the ability to embed their code on your website, which allows you in LinkedIn to see details of LinkedIn users, not by an individual, but by category, who have visited your website in the last 30 days. How many of them are in organizations in a particular industry, particular size, particular job title. This aggregate data can really help you understand your website visitors much more positively than what we've ever been able to do before. We've also seen a lot of advanced tools and techniques coming across through Facebook. However, we have also seen Facebook really moving more to a privacy side and allowing users much more access to be able to adjust and change their privacy settings. Combine this with one of the big changes that we're waiting for 2020, not necessarily in a good format because it may be challenging for a lot of organizations, is both Apple and Google are making changes to how they handle third-party cookies. So these changes are going to start to become implemented shortly, and this is going to potentially have an impact on remarketing campaigns that we're doing, tracking pixels that we have integrated into third parties like Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat. So we still need to wait and see what the outcomes are going to be, what the final verdicts are going to be, and how we're going to need to adjust what we do from a remarketing perspective and a data collection perspective as we move forward with these changes across Apple and Google. We will be keeping you informed about these updates and changes as more and more information comes out, but it really does amplify what we've been talking about the transition to more private communication, more concern with privacy from an individual perspective. Twitter has had a little bit of an interesting resurgence. Twitter struggled in 2018 and early in 2019, actually losing monthly active users. It has since regained some of that near the end of 2019, and a lot of this is being driven by video consumption. Video has really been the saving grace, if you will, from Twitter. A lot of small sporting events and sporting leagues are using Twitter to live stream their sporting activities. And this is driving content and people on the Twitter platform consuming the content. Engagement rates, however, are still very, very low on Twitter. One of the biggest things is that people are no longer using Twitter to reach out, to communicate, to talk to companies. They're not using direct messaging near as much as we had tried to get them to use that from a customer service perspective. Messaging has moved on, and we're going to talk about that coming up as one of the most important changes as we move forward into 2020. Twitter is, however, where people still go to consume content. It is about what's happening now. But one of the things that we've seen over the years and still ongoing with a lot of organizations is not really understanding this aspect about Twitter. We see many organizations that are posting content on Twitter as a single post. The life expectancy of a content of a post on Twitter is about 21 minutes. So if your Twitter followers are not on Twitter in the 21 minutes after you make that post, if you only make that post once, you're not going to have a whole lot of them be able to see that content. This is one of the reasons why with Twitter, it is important that you have posts going out multiple times a day, multiple days a week, not on a single schedule. Whether you're using this with a scheduling tool such as Hootsuite or a more advanced scheduling tool like Social Jukebox that allows you to put a lot of tweets in an ongoing hopper that are going to rotate and cycle around on a random basis, allowing you to get that reach of your Twitter followers regardless of where they are. This is where thinking about what our goals and objectives are and what our measures for success of Twitter is changing considerably. Engagement is not something that you're going to be able to achieve very easily on Twitter. So really it's about amplification, reach. That's what we want to be taking a look at, and making sure that we're using tools to get those messages out multiple times a day, multiple days a week on a randomized schedule is key for helping to reach that. It is important, however, that we're consolidating or combining this type of deployment with regular ongoing live tweets in addition to the non-time sensitive ones that we have in our Social Jukebox on a routine repeat basis. One of the other areas where we've seen some interesting transitions is in the utilization of augmented reality. Augmented reality is not platform specific anymore, although in late 2018 and 2019, we saw a lot of advancements in augmented reality that opened up the door for increased utilization. We saw augmented reality applications being incorporated into Messenger. We see augmented reality being used already extensively across Facebook and Snapchat. But also, we now see augmented reality being able to be used across try-it-on features on YouTube and Pinterest. This is where we are now seeing a much greater utilization of AR. Part of the reasoning is because previously, augmented reality had to be built into your specific app or the app of the app developer. Well, most of the main augmented reality developers now have API code allowing you to add it into your own app. And we've also seen some major advances in the ability of your browser to be able to use augmented reality out of the box. We see this with Safari. And so Safari on mobile devices allows the utilization of augmented reality, which really has allowed platforms like Shopify to be able to bring augmented reality shopping tools to small and mid-sized businesses everywhere. And so we're seeing an uptake in augmented reality. The latest stats are suggesting that for 2019, we were sitting around 24% of North American internet population was using augmented reality at least once a month. And virtual reality, while still increasing with the release of new tools from Oculus and new features that allow hand integration without using hand controllers, really have stepped that up, but it's still sitting at around 13% of North American internet users use virtual reality at least once a month. But those numbers are still relatively significant. So thinking about the role that AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality can have on your organization really is where we need to go. We also need to consider augmented reality and virtual reality because almost every single platform has allowed the ability to incorporate augmented and virtual reality, or augmented reality specifically, into advertising capabilities. So a lot of thought and changes going into 2020. AR may well be coming into its own. We're still waiting to see how mixed reality is going to transition and where the tools are going to go, but it is a very exciting time within that space. One of the areas that we've also seen is we've seen Pinterest with its integration and introduction of augmented reality also do very well on its growth. Pinterest has grown over the last little bit after a period of stagnant growth, and they now have more monthly active users than Snapchat. So we're seeing all of these platforms really starting to have their niche elements and really identifying where their core focus needs to be. Instagram continues to grow, growing on stories and really adding new features on Instagram stories on an ongoing basis. We've seen a lot of great new tools coming out, new additions being incorporated in, and new features across Instagram stories, making it one of the most important types of content that you're deploying when we look at creating content on Instagram. Stories is also getting very high deployment from Facebook's algorithm as opposed to a non-story delivery format. One of the other areas that, as a general consensus, has really become absolutely key is social media is really not about the social anymore. Social media has now moved and is really about the media. And this is shown by some of the information and changes that we've been discussing in this presentation already. We see that those platforms that are more media-centric and media-focused, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, those are the platforms that are starting to grow and excel. Those platforms that are less media-focused, that are starting to decline in time and usage, such as Facebook, are really moving to the point where we're understanding that the social communication is moving to a more private element. And consistent with Mark Zuckerberg's Privacy Manifesto, this brings us to what is your most important digital and social media change for 2019-2020. And that is the fact that we have well and truly moved out of the era of social media and moved into the era of messaging. Messaging is going to be one of your most important deployment platforms going forward for the next few years. We have seen messaging being popular for a number of years. It was back in 2016 when the top 4 messaging applications surpassed the top 4 social media networks for the number of monthly active users that they've had. This has continued to grow. And in fact, Tencent has more monthly active users than Facebook right now. When we take a look at the growth patterns, we see that only WhatsApp and Messenger are only surpassed by Facebook and YouTube in North America with regards to monthly active users. So this is where one of the things that organizations have to start to consider is how we move into having a strong messaging application utilization. Whether it's simply starting at the beginning and ensuring that your Facebook messaging icons are deployed on your website, allowing people to message you directly from your website instead of using email or phone. Simply presenting people with that option is a great first step. The latest numbers are suggesting that from December of 2019, that about 70% of customers would prefer to use texting or messaging applications to communicate with brands rather than email or by phone. 70%. This is now a point where it's not an option for organizations to be on the leading edge. It really has become table stakes. This is sort of going back to the early days of the internet when brands were trying to figure out whether they needed to have an email address for people to send them messaging to. Now it is absolutely critical. Several things are happening in this context. Number one is, as Mark Zuckerberg said, the move is to more private communication. But one of the biggest changes that's going to be happening in 2020 with messaging is that Facebook is going to be deploying a back-end translation platform. What this will allow is across the three main messaging platforms that Facebook has ownership of, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram Direct, is you will have the ability to send messages on one platform and a brand will be able to receive them in another platform. This is an amazing time saver for organizations because it means that you can focus on Messenger as your main messaging application. And if somebody happens to be on WhatsApp as their preferred platform, you can still get the message within Messenger. Rather than going to a single unified messaging service like WeChat has in China, this is one of the areas that has opened up an opportunity for brands to be able to focus on Messenger and still be able to communicate through an integrated inbox. So if you haven't yet put Messenger as an application for your audiences on your website, that should be one of your first steps that you do. The advantage is once you've deployed Messenger, it then gives you the ability to deploy chatbots effectively, to be able to have assistance in your communication. And we're now at a point where about 80% of customer engagement with a brand is not going to involve a human being in 2020. A lot of it is going to be done through chatbots and Messenger, and customer satisfaction through these chatbots is very high. So looking at what we do as far as our messaging, communication, and deployment is going to be key as we go across the next 2 to 3, upwards and potentially to 5 years. We need to make sure that we're providing messaging as an option for individuals to reach out to us. We have to start taking a look at using chatbots to be able to allow messaging to bring things in. But the other big advantage that may not necessarily be addressed is the fact that Messenger has the ability for you to do broadcast messaging. This is where we see a lot of organizations moving to Messenger broadcasts instead of email. The reason being is because open rates on email are typically between 10 to 20%. Open rates for Messenger broadcasts are about 70 to 80% within the first 2 hours. So we're really seeing a transition as to how we communicate and engage, where a lot of the social communication was taking place where we were looking at social media platforms, we are now very clearly looking at this from the standpoint of messaging applications. So organizations have to look at that in their communication, and it really has become absolutely key. One of the areas where we see increased advertising capabilities is growth in the ad platforms and what's being released. One of the channels that has recently opened up a self-serve ad platform, which has some interesting connotations, is TikTok. While TikTok has had phenomenal user growth globally, there have been concerns expressed for brands and organizations because it is a Chinese-owned social media platform and the potential privacy of the data that's being contained. At the moment, TikTok is actually looking at finding a North American CEO or senior position to try to alleviate some of these concerns. But whether or not your brand is taking advantage of TikTok and deploying on TikTok as a presence, TikTok may well be an optimal digital advertising platform for you. So the self-serve ad platform on TikTok that is being opened up is now an opportunity for you to be able to look at ad platform deployment in this context. There's a lot of other advertising opportunities that are deploying that we're seeing with respect to LinkedIn and Microsoft and Bing. All of these are really key moving forward. One of the other very important platforms that so many organizations have ignored over the last few years is your Google My Business account. Google My Business is probably your most important social media platform going forward into 2020. What we see is Google My Business, for those of you that are not that familiar with it, is the platform that drives all of the content on your knowledge panel on Google search. So when you Google your organization's name, you will see a knowledge panel on the right-hand side of a desktop search. You will also see that knowledge panel on the top of a mobile search and on the left-hand side of a Google Maps search. This platform previously had information that it gathered around the internet in various sources. Then Google My Business came into play, and this gave you the ability to control or manage all of the information contained within that knowledge panel. A couple of the key features that many organizations are not taking advantage of is within Google My Business, you have the ability to make Google Posts. Google Posts allow you to have a social media post showing up in that knowledge panel, and those posts can have an image or video, multiple lines of text, and a call to action button. This post is going to be visible for 7 days or longer, depending upon whether it's an event post. One of the big changes that has occurred in 2019 is previously only the current post was showing up. In 2019, Google has now given the ability for people to see all of the previous posts, and this gives you the ability to get a much longer ongoing reach. With 93% of all online activity beginning with search, dominating the content in that knowledge panel has really become key and important. Likewise, your images in that knowledge panel are going to get more reach and more engagement than almost anything you're going to do by posting images on your other social media platforms. Controlling the content is also very important. If you haven't claimed your Google My Business account and aren't actively managing it, then this is going to lead to a situation where anybody is able to upload videos or images to your Google My Business account, and you have no ability to be notified when that happens or to request that Google take inappropriate or incorrect images down. One of the other big changes with Google My Business that happened in 2019 was in the texting option. There was always the ability to have people message you within Google My Business, but previously this was connected to an actual phone where a text would come into. This was a challenge for organizations looking to manage their social media effectively. One of the big things now is you have the ability to allow messaging through your knowledge panel, and it comes into your Google My Business app. Or if you're using Hootsuite as a social media aggregator, you can connect your Google My Business account to Hootsuite to be able to manage those through that platform. Why this becomes key is you are going to get so much engagement on that knowledge panel, more than you would ever possibly imagine. Several of the organizations that I work with on their codes, when I take a look at their search console data, when people physically type in the organization's full name, only about half of them are clicking on the organic links. Now, normally, this would be a cause for concern when we take a look and say, why, when somebody types in our actual name, do they not go to a web page on our website? The reason is simple. When you take a look at your Google My Business insights, we see that the vast majority of those that didn't click on an organic search result are not clicking there because they're actually clicking on the website button that you have within Google My Business's knowledge panel. So when we take a look, I've seen many organizations in the last couple of months that more than half of their website traffic that comes from search is actually coming from that button in the knowledge panel, not from all of the organic search results. Really gives an element of the importance of Google My Business. We feel that Google My Business is so important that we are actually hosting a half-day training session on Google My Business live coming up on Friday, February 7th. Now, normally this half-day training session would be $175, but if you use the promotion code GMB-DSMP, this will get you a 100% discount. So you'll be able to attend this session for free. If you're unable to attend the time for this 3-hour training session that's going to guide you through all of the main features of Google My Business, please still sign up and you will be able to access the recorded content. You will just miss the advantage of being able to engage and ask questions while we're deploying through the stuff in a live format. And there's no Snowmageddon scheduled for Friday, February 7th at this point, so hopefully that live stream will go ahead. The informations and the links and the details are available for you to be able to access this content. But in conjunction with Google My Business and the success that Google My Business has had, in 2019, we also saw Bing make changes to their search. Bing has always had a platform called Bing Places for Business, but it was focused on Bing Maps. Well, what has happened in 2019, much the same as when Google added the knowledge graph to Google search, Bing has removed all of the ads from the right-hand side of Bing search. What they've done instead is now they have their version of the knowledge panel. They've got a knowledge graph that sits there on that right-hand side. We are seeing Bing increasingly create more tools and features that are replicating what is available within Google My Business and its knowledge panel. It's not fully deployed yet. It's not completely there, but I believe that over the next 12 months, we will see an increased amount of capabilities within Bing Places for Business. So it is really important that as an organization that you've claimed both your Google My Business account and your Bing Places for Business account and have optimized these platforms to the best of your ability. This is going to be huge going forward with the importance of how much search is used for people to simply navigate, even though they know your company and know where you're going. So make sure you tune in with us on Friday if you're interested in figuring out step by step how to optimize and best utilize Google My Business. All right, so that has covered some of the major changes that are taking place across digital and social media platforms over 2019. It is by far not all of the changes that are happening. We have made some major changes for 2020 for the digital and social media program as well. This is the 10th anniversary of our delivering the digital and social media program face-to-face training through our partner locations of the Gardner Center at Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland, through Sprott Professional Programs at Carleton University in Ottawa, as well as Edwards Executive Education at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. In addition to our 4 3-day face-to-face programs that we deliver at these locations, we are also revising and creating new programs that will be delivered through our DSMP online platform. So this is where, for example, the Google My Business session that's coming up on Friday is available for access, as well as other training programs that we're going to be doing. We are going to be expanding over the course of 2020 with half-day training programs that will consist of 2 hour and 15-minute sessions that will be delivered live. We'll also be having more advanced training programs that will require a full day, but rather than taking an entire day of your time, these will be split into 2 half-day sessions. So you won't have to take off a full day of work to be able to do these programs live. Additionally, we're really excited about our 4-week hybrid, significantly advanced training programs that we've got coming multiple times over the coming year. These 4-week hybrid programs give you the ability to have scheduled content each week with recorded content being delivered, as well as practical application utilization and some face-to-face scheduled online real-time sessions to discuss and evaluate the work and the deployment that you're doing. The goal of this is to allow you to take the learning of tools and techniques that really need to be applied effectively in your own deployments and allow you the time to be able to put them to use and to really get the benefit and feedback from the deployment of these 4-week hybrid training programs. So these are also going to be available through DSMP Online. One of the other areas that we've always had questions from our past DSMP participants is, how do we stay current and up to date with this? Well, we are really excited to be launching the DSM podcast this week. The Digital and Social Media podcast is designed to cover what's new and up to date every couple of weeks when we have a new episode. The goal of this is to really help you stay current and up to date on an ongoing basis by helping to bring your attention to changes, new statistics, new features that are available as they're being released so you can take advantage of them as quickly as possible. The podcast will be available on all major platforms, including Apple Podcast, Google, and Spotify, as well as TuneIn and a variety of other platforms. So make sure you check out the podcast and the capabilities. All of this information is contained on our newly launched website, the completely rebuilt dsmprogram.com website. So make sure you go to our website, www.dsmprogram.com, and check out all of the new content. All of our updated information is going to be there, all the program dates for all of our partners, and detailed information on our face-to-face training. Thank you very much for joining us for this recorded session that we unfortunately weren't able to be delivering live. If you do have any questions or comments, make sure you reach out to us on any of our social media platforms and comment on this video. And thank you very much for joining. And hopefully you managed to get a few insights that can help take your digital deployment for 2020 to the next level. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks again for joining us.